And we are now live on the Views from 314 Feet podcast. And
there it is.
Can you see it?
Yep.
All right, nice. So sorry, this is the first time we're doing it. So we're like learning about this in real time. So hopefully everybody can see us. It's Randy, it's Chris, Yankees beat reporter from The Athletic. We're going to do this special live stream. Obviously, there's a lot to get to. Before we get going, since this is in real time and it's a live stream, we just ask everybody to be respectful of one another and to be respectful of your fellow viewers in the chat. So, we just want this to be good vibes and informative and entertaining. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, it's Randy, it's Chris, it's the Views from 314 Feet live stream on YouTube. So, Chris, how are you before we get going?
Doing well. Looking forward to this weekend after 3 pretty miserable games to watch. Like, I don't know how the Twins are over 500. I mean, I obviously get the history between the two teams, but they look awful. Like, how are they over 5? I mean, is the league that watered down that this team is over 500? Like, what is impressive about them? I don't get it.
Nothing. Royce Lewis.
Yeah, he's good. I like Royce.
And I don't know.
Like, even Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, he's terrible.
And he's supposed to be their ace. I think his ERA is now over 5 after last night. Gave up 7 runs, but even when they were in Minnesota a couple weeks ago, he looked terrible. So I don't know what their plan is. I mean, I obviously they're in the AL Central, so who knows if Cleveland's going to continue being one of the best teams in baseball. Like I don't know how that's even happening. Obviously I can't watch many games because I'm covering the Yankees on a daily basis, but them being, I think, like 20 games over 500 is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, their offense is good, and Jose Ramirez is a top 5, top 10.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that guy's on
for sure.
And Naylor's having a great year.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting contributions from Fry. I think they're getting contributions from guys that you probably wouldn't expect to have that level of production. But we'll see. It's a long season. I mean, whatever applies to the Yankees with it being a long season, same thing with every other team, even though, I mean, we both agree the Yankees are really good. So Matt Pasquale asks, can we see Tim? Maybe. We'll see. He's laying down right now, so I don't want to rile him up and then he starts taking this over. So maybe we'll see Tim at some point. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into the big question of the day. And I think we all know what that is, and that is the video of Chris doing karaoke at some bar that surfaced last night. I think Gary Phillips from the Daily News posted that. So I know that was the question that everybody once answered. What was going on with the with the karaoke video?
That was in Tampa. That was during spring training. I mean, we have a ton of time to kill in spring training, so like to get after it some nights sometimes. That's it. I also love karaoke. Like I don't have a good singing voice, but I do like to perform. I wish I could sing because I really enjoy being on stage. Like anytime karaoke is an option, I will certainly go for it.
Yeah, you'll never see me do karaoke.
I love karaoke.
I'll watch in the back and laugh at everybody, but you're not going to laugh at me.
I mean, the secret is just to have confidence, like when you're going on stage. Like I look at it as I don't know these people, so who cares if I look like a fool in front of them because I don't know them and I don't care what they think anyway. So that's why I enjoy it.
That's a good attitude.
No, I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's the same thing with like how I approach like Twitter and stuff. I'm sure there are people on Twitter or Reddit who don't like me for whatever reasons. Like it doesn't bother me because I don't know them. So what's the point of getting worked up over it?
Also, when it comes to that, like I don't dislike anybody unless they're just like out of pocket for no reason. But like we're just talking sports. Like it's not really a reflection of
Right.
we are as people for me or anybody that I speak with. Like we could disagree, but I'm not like judging you unless you just become like a total jerk. Then we've kind of crossed the line. But I mean, it's not personal. We're just talking sports, just like you would be talking to somebody, in a barbershop or something like that. All right. So let's get to the real question here and the thing that everybody wants to know. Obviously, everybody knows at this point Juan Soto did not return from the game last night after the rain delay. I believe they resumed in the sixth inning. Soto wasn't there. He was replaced by Alex Verdugo, who was also getting the day off, presumably because he ran into a wall the night before. And the Yankees immediately announced that Soto left the game with left forearm discomfort. Obviously, alarm bells going off for everybody. And then Boone spoke after the game and Soto spoke after the game, and you were there. So just give us as much info and also like just Soto's vibe and the vibe of the team and Boone since you were there. Let's, as much as you know, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, nothing has changed from last night. I don't even know if he's gotten his MRI yet. Usually they get their MRIs mid-afternoon, and obviously it's just after 12 now. He may have gotten it. I don't know yet. I will get to the stadium around Clubhouse opens at 3:10 today. Clubhouse is open for 50 minutes, so I doubt that we will see Soto in there during those 50 minutes. And then we speak with Aaron Boone at 4 o'clock, so he'll have some update then. But it's possible we get something before then, but I wouldn't count on it. As far as like the vibe, I wasn't like even the other reporters who were there last night. We were not expecting to speak with Soto. I didn't see Soto in the dugout from the sixth inning on. I assumed that was when he was getting his testing, but I figured he may have left the building. So it was a nice surprise to speak with Soto last night instead of waiting until today and keeping fans in the dark. As far as his vibe, it didn't seem like anything was off. Like I don't think he was overly concerned. Like he said that he's been dealing with some discomfort for a week and a half to 2 weeks. Obviously, it hasn't affected his play. He was quite remarkable on the West Coast trip. What he did on Sunday in San Francisco, for example. I mean, he was doing that with a sore forearm then. That's within a week. So I don't know if it's anything serious. The only thing I would say is that when this happened last season with Jason Dominguez, if I remember correctly, Dominguez had told us that he heard something pop. Forget what game it was, but then he ended up playing a few extra games. I think he didn't say anything. So Dominguez, I mean, Soto is different than Dominguez because there isn't a clear injury of like this happening. Like I asked him, was there a moment where this happened? Like, a lot of the times injuries happen because there's a clear moment of it happening. And with this one, he said that it wasn't the case. He woke up one day and his arm was sore. He's been getting treatment on it for the past couple of since the discomfort started. So I don't know if it's serious. It could be serious. It could be minor. He could be in the lineup tonight. I don't know. Like we're not going to know anything for a couple of hours, I assume.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Dominguez because people were referencing him last night, and I know that there was a quote at one point that Jason had where he said that beyond just like feeling the pop at that one point and then continuing to play, he felt like there wasn't any, for lack of a better term, like pop or juice in his arm once he got hurt. And it felt like there was nothing there. It's pretty clear with Soto that that's not the case. I mean, if you just go off of performance, I believe someone tweeted last night the two throws that he made from right field. One was at like 75 miles per hour, and another one was at 56. But I also think that was determined by the play itself. So I don't think we can read too much into that because he might have just been throwing it into the cutoff guy on the one that was like 56 miles per hour. And Aaron Boone made it clear that this was a precaution on their part. But I'm curious what you think of this because this doesn't normally happen during a rain delay. The detail that stood out to me that gave me some concern, not a lot. I don't think I'm like nuclear about it because I think there are enough signs where you can kind of feel positive that it might not be too bad. But the one thing that caught my attention was when Boone said that Soto met with Dr. Ahmad during the rain delay. And then there was a decision made to go get imaging, which that is, I'm not a professional athlete. I don't play Major League Baseball, but I've watched enough. I played, like, I know injuries. I know, like, some of the protocols. That is really unusual for a doctor to just check somebody who doesn't have a clear injury or a moment where there was an injury, and then all of a sudden you're getting imaging the next day. So that out of everything that came out last night was a little concerning because something had to have happened or he had to have felt something a little bit more than in the past for the doctor to then be a part of the conversations.
I agree with you. Like I always say, there's no such thing as precautionary imaging.
Right.
You're not going for an MRI because you want to have a nice lunch inside the tube.
Right.
Like you're going for an MRI because they feel like something is up. So, like, yeah, like the fact that he's getting testing means that something is abnormal. It's not something that, oh, it's just like I slept on my neck wrong today.
Right.
I'll be good in 4 hours. Like they're obviously sending him for testing for some reason. With them shutting him down in between the fifth inning and then when the rain delay happened, Juan said that he was experiencing some soreness last night, and that's when they decided to see Dr. Ahmad, who just happened to be at the game. He's not at every game, so they kind of lucked out with him being there last night because he was able to see him. They didn't have to wait until today to see him, and then they decided to go to testing after that. So like they took care of one step last night. But I had a conversation with someone in the front office last year when basically everybody was underperforming, and he used Luis Severino as an example. It's like Luis Severino's not performing well. We're not just sending him to get an MRI to see if anything's wrong. Like there has to be some incident or some sort of discomfort in this case to actually go through the process of getting imaging. So the fact that he's getting imaging suggests that it's risen to the level where the Yankees feel like, okay, like we have to do something about it. Because again, he hasn't experienced any sort of dip in performance. He's been really good in this past week and a half to 2 weeks. So it's not like that's a clear indicator of something being wrong. But obviously, and Soto was on board with it too. So in his mind, he feels like, I should get this looked at because he's one of those players who prides himself on playing every single inning, every single game. 162 games is a stat that's meaningful to Juan. Not every player is like that. Like some players feel like they need off days to be, their best self. But Juan is one of those guys who wants to play all 9 innings of 162 games. So that alone tells me that it's at a level where, okay, it's not something that probably should be played with moving forward at the level that he's been doing it over the past week and a half to 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as soon as they said Dr. Ahmad and they didn't feel like he should warm up again, I mean, that's whatever it is, it's something, and like I think at this point, we as Yankee fans have to hope that it's more on the minor side, like irritation or inflammation, something like that, not something more serious. But something's going on because it just felt like the chain of events and the reasons for that chain of events to unfold meant that something had happened, and it got to the point where he wasn't really comfortable anymore, you know. Um, so yeah, I mean, it could have been the throws. Who knows? Like, it's not even worth like guessing or kind of figuring that out. We are where we are. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's where we're at right now with the Soto thing. I know that there are some questions, so uh, let's see from HG. If Soto needs a DH, how would that affect Stanton's playing time? Would he be forced to play the field? So this is a sentiment. I kind of had a back and forth with someone on Twitter last night about the whole how do you manage Soto and this potential injury, depending on what it is, um, moving forward. And this is actually a topic that I wanted to cover with you. So obviously, in this instance, and this for the sake of conversation, let's go worst case scenario. And worst case scenario would obviously be a UCL tear. Now, I'm not saying that that's what it is. Chris is not saying that. For the sake of conversation and for where this topic can go, we'll play the worst scenario and then go backwards. So let's just say UCL tear for Soto. Then the question becomes, can he hit? And there's precedent with Bryce Harper. I know the person I had this conversation with last night mentioned Bryce Harper. Someone on the chat has already mentioned Bryce Harper.
Ohtani last season.
And Ohtani. So I'm not the thing for me in this conversation, there are two things. One, Soto's a free agent after this year. And he has pretty much made it clear that he's going to the market regardless. Boris, I know he's given the lip service and like giving the metaphors and analogies, but we all know he's going to the market. So clearly getting top dollar is a priority for Juan Soto. Like, that is what's driving his decision, which is his right. And if I was him, I'd be doing the same thing. With that said, is Juan Soto going to compromise himself to hit for the rest of the year in terms of the free agent market and what it could be and the dollars that he could be looking at versus grinding it out or gutting it out to help the Yankees win a World Series? And I think that that's a question that is both valid and one that he would have to consider if this was a worst case scenario. I mean, he has generational wealth staring him right in the face. And if he doesn't perform well with this UCL tear when he's hitting or whatever happens, that's compromising what his ultimate personal goal is off the field, which is to cash in. The other thing, too, which goes to HG's question, is how do you handle this roster-wise? Like, he's not going to play the field. That now you have essentially a backup DH in Stanton, which is not a good use of the roster. And then now you have to navigate that. So, again, imaginary worst case scenario for the sake of conversation, how would you navigate? And if you had to advise Juan Soto on what to do, what would be your advice?
It's a tough question because there's so much money at stake. We're talking about if he injures his elbow further in this hypothetical scenario, he could certainly cost himself tens of millions, 100+ million. I don't know. There's definitely going to be a team out there who's going to pay him regardless, just because of the fact that his track record, his age, he's still young enough that even if it was a UCL tear, he still has maybe 15 years left of his career. So I don't know how much it would be impacted in free agency. Also, because he's a position player, it's not as serious of an injury as it would be for a pitcher. So those are two things I would say. I mean, if I was advising him, I mean, I'm greedy. I want every dollar. I would tell him to shut down and heal up. In an ideal world, obviously for Yankee fans, he's playing through it. He's gutting through it. For a reporter, it's going to be good for storylines. So of course, like you would want him to play through it. But again, that's in an ideal world. Sometimes we don't live in an ideal world. So I don't know what he would do. As far as the Stanton question, it's a really good question. I haven't seen Stanton shag fly balls or take fly balls in pregame warmups since spring training. I can't recall him being in the outfield during batting practice or when they're warming up. So if that's the case, I mean, we're not there all the time. So I can't say if he has done outfield practice or not. Obviously, he hasn't played there this year. So that means he's gone, we're in June now. So at least 3 months of not being in the outfield. And also, he can't move well. So I don't know if you want him to be in the outfield. I don't know what they would do in that scenario. Obviously, you would want Soto's bat in the lineup. If he's going to play through it, you want him in there, and he would be the DH. If it's that bad where he has to, sit a couple days, Stanton could play twice, 3 times a week. I don't know. But I just don't know where Stanton would play in this scenario. It's a really good question. Obviously, he has a lot of money guaranteed himself, so it's not like you want him coming off the bench. And also for his career, he's not a good player who does well when he's not playing all the time.
He's also hitting well. I mean,
he's also hitting well. So you also don't want to take his bat out of the lineup, but also he would be such a liability in the field too. It's not a question that I would want to answer if it was my job. Like it's going to be a really tough decision for Boone if it got to that point, because I really don't know what the best course of action would be in this situation, just because of the fact that Stanton hasn't played out there all year. He can't move well. I mean, the double he hit the other day.
Yeah, he can't even get to second base.
It was hilarious. He can't run. Like my grandma's 90 years old. I mean, she might be able to move than him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't like, can he play left field? Can he play right field? Probably not with the way he looks like running. So I don't know what the Yankees would do in this situation.
The other thing too here, and the reason we're talking about this is because all variables are on the table. So yeah, we want to be optimistic, of course, and positive, but we don't know if it's going to be good. We don't know if it's going to be bad. So I mean, all options are on the table to discuss right now because we don't know. So we can go in a bunch of different directions. Ultimately, we hope that this part of the conversation won't matter and he's gone for a little while or no time at all, and then it's great. We don't have to worry about it. But because we don't know, and he is getting an MRI, you can touch on these things. So with that said, another thing to think about in terms of like would he play through an injury like this is, again, I'm going to bring it back to free agency. If he plays through this year, he has to get surgery. So now in the first year and a half of his new deal, however long it takes, he's not really available. And that also impacts negotiations. Like, as much as some of us would like to think that these negotiations with teams and players are fair, they're not. These teams are looking to save as much money as they possibly can. They don't want to give $700 million to a player unless they are forced to, or there's a situation where in some ways it can work for them. So they would absolutely use that against Soto, and he knows that, and Boris knows that. So all these things matter. Like, it's not just like a fan driven thing where we hope he can like gut it through. Like this is their livelihood. These are their jobs. Like these are all conversations that agents have with their clients. Like I don't play professional baseball, but I have an agent. I have conversations with him about different scenarios and how to leverage things and how are we going to attack deals and what are creative ways to like make X, Y, and Z work. These are conversations that you have with your agent. That's their job. And you have to consider all scenarios. And the good agents detail all of those scenarios for you to make a decision. And then they advise you based on all the things that come together. And Scott Boras is at the top of that list. I mean, he's incredibly detailed, and the team around him is incredibly detailed. So all these things would be discussed. So, I think for us on the outside, there's like simple questions that we can ask, and there's hopes that go along with it. But I mean, when it comes to the actual like livelihood aspect of it and business side of it, there's a lot more that goes into it that can and do sometimes factor into it. Like we referenced Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper got his deal when he was hitting. Like he was a Philly and got a 13-year deal. He's set for life. Like he's going to be a Philly and he's going to get his check regardless. That's not true for Juan Soto. So I'm not hoping that he's hurt. Not hoping that like all these things play out, but it is part of the reality of what you're looking at if it is worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if it would be a worst case scenario, just because he's already turned down a big deal by the Nationals. Again, I don't know how much it would impact him if it was a worst case scenario, which is a torn UCL. It requires surgery, because the timeline of returning is much different for a position player, and especially one who's not even in the prime of his career yet. So like he still has plenty of years to go. But the one thing with getting Tommy John though is not every player returns to form,
right?
As we've seen with some Yankees in the past.
We've seen it with 2 Yankees,
right?
There's 2 examples of that,
right? So I mean, Hicks is the recent example. He was never the same after he had his Tommy John. So
neither was Didi.
Right. Yeah, Didi was like basically out of the league in a couple years after that. So that's the one thing to keep note of if it did reach that point. But again, it's still too early to know what's going to happen. The fact that it's been a week and a half to 2 weeks where he has still been one of the best players in the sport, I think is encouraging. The fact that he's able to throw at the speed that he's been in the past couple of weeks is encouraging. There hasn't been any noticeable sign of his bat speed decreasing, and now that's quantified because of StatCast. And I looked at the numbers; nothing is different with that. So, like there are encouraging signs of this not being a big deal. So that's really all we can do right now, is just like look at the stuff that we have available to us, which is his arm speed. I think he had a ball last night. He threw 83 miles an hour, which is basically in line with what he's doing when he's trying to get a runner out. His bat speed is still basically the same. I think it's last night's game was like 0.3 miles an hour off his average, which is so minuscule that you wouldn't be able to draw any conclusions on that number. So again, no statistics are showing that there's something majorly wrong. Again, you don't know, and sometimes the imaging does show that there will be something wrong. But as of now, there isn't any sign that this is a major injury.
Yeah, right. Agreed. So hopefully that stays the course after the imaging. One other question related to this, because I know this is the theme of this podcast. It feels like Jason Dominguez how does he factor into all this? Obviously, last night, him getting pulled had nothing to do with Soto. In real time, that could have been a possibility, but then we found out later that they weren't related. Where do you think Jason fits in all this, if at all, if Soto ends up having to go on the IL or something worse happens?
I mean, obviously, he's the clear candidate to replace Soto on the roster if it came to that. If it were today, he's still in the middle of rehabbing. He has not completed a game yet, which is important to note. I don't know if the Yankees would call him up before he's finished 9 innings. Last night, he finished 7 innings. He got 4 at-bats. Obviously, he's been hitting the cover off the baseball in the minor leagues. I have his stats pulled up here. He's got a 978 OPS across 62 at-bats in the minors. So obviously, he's hitting very well. But he just started playing the field the other day. He's only played 5 games now in the outfield. Would the Yankees call him up if he's not completely ready? I don't know. I mean, they've done it in the past where guys, finish off their rehabs in the majors, but it's usually in cases where the games are really, really, really important. Like they did it 2 years ago with Clay Holmes in the playoffs. Clay had a shoulder capsule injury, if I'm remembering correctly, and they had him finish off rehab in the playoffs. I mean, it's the playoffs, so you want your best players to play if they're able to. Because Dominguez is still in the middle of his rehab, and they just extended his rehab 10 days a few days ago. I don't know if it's worth calling him up if he's not 100% ready.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
You can always call him up again if Soto's out for a few weeks. If that's the case, you can always call him up next week if he's ready, and have someone like Greg Allen, who's in AAA, or Oscar Gonzalez, who's also in AAA. Either of those guys could fill in fine, and then they don't have to start necessarily. You can have.
You would have Grisham start, basically.
Right. You would have Grisham in center field, and Judge could play right or left, whatever they decide. So there are ways to make it work where if it was Greg Allen or Oscar Gonzalez, they wouldn't be in the lineup every day.
Right.
So there are ways to make it work. They could also just say screw it. Dominguez is looking great at the plate, and we want him to get at-bats in the major leagues right now, which is certainly possible. They obviously feel very strongly about him. They think he's a difference maker. And, if he continues to hit the way he has, maybe there's not that much of a drop-off with him and Soto. I don't know. It's possible.
Right.
He's a very gifted player. I'm not
Right.
saying he's going to be Juan Soto, but, it's possible that the production could be close or in the ballpark. We see it with Luis Gil, with Garrett Cole.
Right.
I mean, he's been better than Cole was last year, which is,
Right.
insane to say. So, they have options. I believe Everson Pereira is still on the injured list, so he would not be a consideration.
I have to be honest. I totally forgot that Greg Allen and Gonzalez were even in the organization. I totally I knew Pereira was hurt, but I totally forgot about Greg Allen and Gonzalez.
Yeah, so there are 2 guys who have major league experience. Allen played last year in I think 15-ish games. He got hurt. Right. Everybody got hurt. So
yeah,
even the backups get hurt.
We were all hurt.
Yeah. Even I got hurt in the media game last year. So we're all hurt.
Right. You what'd you hurt?
My oblique.
Oh man, damn.
That's good. I heard it warming up.
Damn.
It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
The Yankees just they wiped off on me.
Yeah, that's not good. So even though we just had this conversation about Soto, I think it is important to remember the Yankees are 26 games above 500. They're on an 8-game streak. Aaron Judge is the best player on planet Earth. Glaber's starting to hit. The pitchers are pitching. The lineup's hitting. I mean, obviously Soto's a big part of that, but like there are a bunch of other guys doing their job. I mean, the team's really good. And if this is a short-term thing, they'll be able to navigate it. I mean, they've gone into June 7th and past this date without Garrett Cole, and they're the best team in baseball. So I think that they're really equipped to handle this as long as it's in the short term. And it would suck to not see Juan Soto for a while. It would suck to not see him against the Dodgers this weekend if that's what ends up happening. But I think for the overall well-being of the team, they're constructed to be able to navigate it. And, it's just going to require more from guys like Stanton and Glaber. Rizzo has to show up. Rizzo has to start playing well. Volpe has to continue to do things. Grisham will have to contribute some more. But, I mean, most of these guys have been doing it all year anyway. So, it's just continue to do what you're doing until Soto can come back whenever that is. If he's not even going to be there, I mean, obviously the imaging will determine it. But this isn't like last year where Judge, shatters his foot and toe on the wall in Dodger Stadium, and at that moment that the season's pretty much over. That it's not that situation, which is great. So yeah,
I'll make one final point on this is that even if Soto, let's say he has to miss 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is, in the grand scheme of it, it's not a big deal. If that means he's going to be, if that allows him time to settle the forearm, make sure it's 100%. I think fans should want that more than playing through it and risking a further injury, because the Yankees are on June 7th are already at the point where they could look ahead to October. They're gonna be in the playoffs. They're not missing the playoffs this year. They're gonna be there. I'm not gonna have October off this year.
Yeah, no, you're not.
No, I'm not going to have October off. I may not have the first 2-3 weeks of October off with the way they're playing. So their decision making also should be what is important for October. If it means shutting Soto down for 2 weeks in June, and that means he's going to be 100% healthy, they should do that. Honestly,
yeah,
that should be factored into the equation of what they do with Soto. Because
absolutely.
the games in June, of course, it would be nice to see Soto and Judge go up against, Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman. Of course, like I totally get that. But also, it's a early June series. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's 3 games against a team that's not in your league. Like you're not fighting with them for home field advantage. So in the grand scheme of it, it doesn't matter. So that needs to factor into their decision making.
Yeah, we can see that in the World Series in October.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
That would be better than this 3-game series. This 3-game series is going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't really think it's going to really tell us much or give any indication or anything like that. I think
any team can win. Any team can win 3 games, even if the Dodgers come in here and win 2 of 3. Doesn't mean that the Yankees are faltering. It doesn't mean that they're a fraud. It doesn't mean anything with the way that they've playing. But with the way they've been playing, it's kind of meaningless, honestly.
Right. Agreed. So now that we've teed that up, let's talk about the Yankees-Dodgers series. Now that we've turned it into a meaningless series in June. Obviously, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good times. Part of the reason why we decided to do this live stream for the first time. So what are your impressions of this series beyond the fact that, like, in the grand scheme of things, it probably doesn't have that much of an impact, but what are you looking forward to? Who are the players, not named Ohtani and Betts, that you're looking forward to seeing from the Dodgers in this series?
From the Dodgers, I mean, tonight I want to see what Yamamoto looks like in person. Number one, um, but I think the number one player who could kind of cement himself nationally is Luis Seal, because the Dodgers, he's going up against them on Sunday Night Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball is still a big deal. It may not be as big of a deal as it was, when I was a child or when I was a teenager, but it's still a big thing. And also, it is the Dodgers. It is a team that could certainly win the World Series. It's a team that could certainly be in the running as one of the best teams in baseball. They will likely be one of the best teams when the season is over. And this is kind of like the final boss for Luis Seal. If he gets through the Dodgers lineup, which is second right now in WRC plus, it's going to be the coronation of Luis Seal nationally. He likely becomes the Cy Young favorite at this point. Some people may not think of him as the Cy Young favorite now. I mean, locally, everybody probably thinks he's the favorite. Skubal with the Tigers, Tanner Houck's having a really good year with the Red Sox. But if he gets through this Dodgers lineup and carves them up like he's basically done with every single team now, I think the fact that he's a Yankee, the fact that it's going to be on Sunday Night Baseball, the fact that it's the Dodgers, this is certainly his best opportunity to cement himself as the Cy Young favorite. I'm very interested to see if his stuff is going to hold up against this lineup, because they're really good. They're a really, really good team. And if he goes in there and shuts down Betts, Ohtani, Freeman in the first inning, it's going to be the Bronx is going to be electric on Sunday night if that happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm missing that game. I have a good reason, but I'm not going to be able to see it live, so I have to DVR it and then watch it either later that night or in the morning before we record. So I'm bummed out about that. But yeah, I mean, he'll absolutely. The thing about so the Dodgers are obviously really good, and their lineup is obviously really good. But I also feel like it is incredibly top heavy. Like they have a lot of, I won't say a lot, but there are a couple spots in their lineup that are really being carried by the top guys. And I know that they've been like rotating a bunch of outfielders and can't really settle all those positions offensively. Even defensively, I know they've been like inconsistent. I think they've been better lately. But it feels like they're really good, but it feels like there are very clear holes that I think at some point they're probably going to fill or they need to fill. So I find them to be really interesting just in how they've been performing. Like their top guys are so good that, they're just like carrying everybody else, but they're like really top heavy. And I feel like once you get past like the obvious guys, you can like really attack them and maybe steal some outs. Poteet's going tonight. Nestor's tomorrow. It feels like, I mean, obvious things to say. Obvious things are obvious. You get past the first 4 or 5 guys, there's a chance for you to really go after that lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Teoscar Hernandez is having a good season. Max Muncy, Will Smith. So it's not like they're, once you get past, it's not like the Blue Jays lineup where, you get past even this year, like they're not doing well. But, for a pitcher, once you get past like Bichette and Guerrero and Justin Turner, it's like smooth sailing from there. It's not necessarily the case with the Dodgers. Like even though like, yeah, obviously like Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman are so much better than everybody else. Like they're still good hitters in the lineup. Like Will Smith, I'm looking now, their catcher. He has a 147 WRC plus this year. He's slugging the exact same as Mookie Betts. So
Right.
he's no slouch. Teoscar Hernandez is obviously one of the better power hitting bats across baseball. So he's no slouch. Yeah, I could kind of say the same thing about the Yankee lineup, honestly.
No, I would disagree.
I'm not saying like it's easy to get through, but on some nights Stanton can't hit the side of the wall if it was right in front of him. Rizzo obviously has been struggling, and you never know what you're getting from your catchers. Glaber's been doing better as of late, but on the whole, he hasn't been that great. Verdugo isn't like a crazy scary bat. He has a 108 WRC plus this year. So like it's still similar, I would say, in the fact that the Yankees top three is much better than the next portion of their lineup.
Yeah, sure, but that's not totally how I would define like top heavy. I mean, I think that's true for every team. Your top players are at the top of the lineup. But I mean, part of it is because I obviously watched the Yankees more than the Dodgers. I've watched a bunch of Dodgers games though. I just feel like there have been multiple games where the bottom of the lineup for the Yankees has come through more than the bottom of the lineup for the Dodgers. And I think even in their personnel moves, the Dodgers are telling you that they don't feel comfortable or they don't like the production that they're getting from their own guys. I mean, they've been like rotating people. Guys
the outfield for sure.
Yeah, like guys have been hurt. They platoon. Like, I mean, Pages, I think I pronounced his last name correctly.
Yes.
Jason Hayward, Othman. I mean, they have like a carousel going on in the outfield. And defensively, I don't think they're great in a bunch of spots. I don't know. I just feel like in a bunch of moments in Yankees games, even if like the statistics aren't like completely wowing you, I feel like the lineup overall has been giving bigger contributions top to bottom compared to the Dodgers. Like, so that's what I mean. And I just think that the lineup for the Dodgers is carried by like 4 or 5 guys, and then once you get past those 4 or 5 guys, the like threat diminishes significantly. And I don't think you can say the same thing for the Yankees lineup. I mean, there have been games when Trevino, Cabrera, and somebody else, like in a like Birdie at some point has like a big hit. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just meant it more in that context that
I get what you're saying. I mean, again, I can't watch many games of other teams because I'm at the stadium. I mean, I can just look at the stats, and the Yankees have a 124 WRC plus. The Dodgers have a 122 WRC plus. So, like in my mind, the offenses are comparable on the whole because 2 points of WRC plus is again a minuscule number. So they're basically the same offense, at least on paper.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Yankees are more balanced. I mean, again, the Dodgers are telling you what they think of some of their guys
for sure.
So that's like on the offensive side. So I believe the Dodgers have. I don't remember. I know 2 of the 3 pitchers that are going. Glasnow's going, right? Yamamoto's tonight. Who's the 3rd pitcher?
Stone.
Oh, Gavin. Right, he's tomorrow. So obviously Yamamoto's catching your eye. Can you talk a little bit more about why?
Well, for one, the Yankees were heavily interested in him. I had a story in The Athletic today about how they were pursuing him in the offseason. I spoke with Matt Blake the other day. They certainly wanted to add him, even though, they didn't want to add Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery for the dollar figures they were wanting. How Steinbrenner was comfortable giving $300 million to Yamamoto. Like they thought he was a difference maker. They think he's going to be a difference maker moving forward. So like they really, really wanted him. They were going all out. They had multiple meetings with Yamamoto, both in California and New York. And he's also just a fascinating pitcher to watch. He's unique in how he warms up. Like I'm interested in seeing his warm up routine tonight and seeing the different things that he does.
Is he bringing the javelin? Does he do that?
I think he brings it everywhere. Blake actually told me when I spoke with him the other day, like that was one of the things like they were hammering to Yamamoto when they met with him in LA for the first time, is that, we understand that you're very unique in how you do your routine, and we're very comfortable accommodating what you need on a daily basis. Because that was one of the things that Yamamoto was telling teams when he was meeting with them in free agency. It's like he has a routine that he wants to follow, and he doesn't necessarily want to change it. Like it's been working for him. He established himself as one of the world's best pitchers over in Japan, and he, coming to the majors, obviously there are some things that, have to change, but for the most part, like how he warms up with, yoga mats and the javelins that you were talking about, he has like mini soccer balls that he uses. I don't know for what. But again, it's just unique. And that was one of the things that Blake was telling me about when he was talking with Yamamoto. It's like, the Yankees obviously have all of the resources available for players when it comes to how they examine their bodies, how they examine their performance, how they use analytics to, help pitchers, become better, all that stuff. And it seemed like it was something that did resonate with Yamamoto. Obviously, it ended up not working out because he signed with the Dodgers. But, I think it'll be interesting to see how he does in his first start here in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I just think it's going to be a fun series. Two really good teams, and maybe Soto will show up. That would be great too. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of storylines and a lot of things going on. Of course, Ohtani coming back to Yankee Stadium, and Mookie Betts, who might as well put him in the Hall of Fame right now, to just play at that level and then just casually go to shortstop and then be one of the best shortstops is just like incredible. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Like hands down.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. Otani's a Hall of Famer, and Freeman is a Hall of Famer.
Freeman's a Hall of Famer, right?
Like, there's no doubt about it. Any three of those guys.
No, none. They're all going to the Hall of Fame. So pretty impressive to have that collection of talent. So, with the last couple minutes, we can open it up for some questions if you guys have any questions. Luke has one right away. Better pen, Dodgers or Yankees?
I would say the Yankees, honestly. I mean, I know like we've talked so much about the shakiness, but I think Holmes has established himself as one of the best closers. Luke Weaver has been really, really good. I wrote a story on him the other day. Go check it out if you haven't. I just think, would I trust the Yankees getting 9 outs of a game? I think so.
It's tough for me because I don't really like the Yankees bullpen outside of Weaver and Holmes. I think I've been pretty clear how I feel about the bullpen. I don't like the Yankees bullpen. Like, I think they have to address it with more than one guy.
I mean, the Dodgers, the Yankees and Dodgers have two of the best bullpen ERAs, but also like looking at it as a whole, like the Dodgers have like 2 or 3 guys who like you would really
Yeah,
trust.
yeah,
So it's kind of equal in that regard.
yeah. That's why they're similar. I think because it's the same kind of reason for both. Like they have 2 or 3 guys you can really trust, and then the rest is like a crapshoot. Um, so I guess the Yankees because of Clay Holmes. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Yankees bullpen. I think they need to. I think the Dodgers need to add to their bullpen too. So um, yeah, I mean, I would give the edge to the Yankees because of Holmes, but I'm not the biggest fan of the Yankees pen.
You don't like Dennis Santana?
Nah, I think I've had enough of Dennis Santana and Caleb Ferguson, and I, I think it's I don't. I'm not on the like DFA this guy like every other day thing, but some of them are playing themselves into that consideration, and Santana's definitely at the top of that list. I mean, it's just ugh. It's like, come
Yeah,
on,
it's
man.
not good.
It's
It's
not
not
good
good.
at all. Not good
No.
at all.
But like
Um,
we were saying, I think we said it maybe 2 episodes ago. Like the bullpen now is not going to be the bullpen in
right,
October. So like
right.
just when you're watching the games, keep that in mind. Like Dennis Santana, I would be stunned if he was pitching in October.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's happening. Uh, I think they need more than one arm for the bullpen, though.
Oh yeah,
They need multiple arms because they have multiple people that's not doing a job, so they need to be replaced. Okay, how the f is Ron Marinaccio not up yet? I'm not a Marinaccio fan either, so I don't really think about him, but he's 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 performed better this season than the other guys. I just don't trust Ron's command. Maybe I have like PTSD from last year, but I've never liked his command. And I recognize that he's pitched better than Santana and Ferguson. So like I'm not blind, but I don't know. I'm not. I don't think Marinaccio is an answer either.
the one thing I'll say about Santana is back in spring training, Nick Birdie was getting all the hype for good reason. Like he was electric, but also behind the scenes, like a lot of the people were saying that Dennis Santana was the guy to watch. So he definitely has supporters inside the building. I'm not saying it's reaching like Albert Abreu level yet,
God,
but
that's
Albert had a lot of fans inside the building. So he continued getting chances. But you know, if Santana continues pitching the way he has been, it's going to be a matter of time before the Yankees decide that there are other options that need to be considered.
right. Okay, so I think we mentioned some names before, but uh, Simon asks, who is a realistic high leverage bullpen candidate at the deadline?
We mentioned him in the last episode. Andrew Nardi would be one of my top picks. With the Marlins, left-hander, strikes out a lot of guys. The one thing is it may cost quite a bit because he is a pre-arbitration player. So look at it as like a Scott Efros type of deal where the Yankees traded Hayden Wesneski to the Cubs. Wesneski is actually pitching for the Cubs now in the majors. So think of it as like that kind of deal where the Yankees, they wouldn't be trading like a Dominican Summer League pitcher for Nardi. Like they would be trading someone who is considered one of their better prospects.
Yeah. Try to get Tanner Scott too. Why not?
Tanner Scott too. He's also a name to watch with the Marlins.
If you're on the Marlins, just anticipate not being there for much.
Yeah, for sure. Like those are a couple names who I'd watch for. But again, we're still a month and a half out from the deadline, so more names will certainly emerge.
Right. And I think those names will come from very specific teams. Like the White Sox would be another team.
Yeah, White Sox are going to clean house. The Marlins are going to clean house. The Rockies, who knows with them? Obviously, we've talked about them several times. Just never know what they're going to do. if the Cardinals fall off, if the Reds fall off, those would also be a couple of teams to watch out for.
Yeah. So Luke asked, more important at the deadline, infield bat or bullpen help? I think bullpen help. I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean bullpen help for sure. The one thing I will say about the infield is you don't want to get to a spot where the injuries start piling up and you have to rely on guys like LeMahieu and Rizzo. Like this with how the Yankees are performing this year, they really need to consider having an upgrade available to them because the Yankees can win the World Series this year, and you don't want to make it to October and Rizzo and LeMahieu are struggling or they haven't shown that they can hit, and those guys are two spots in your order, and they're exposed. Like even if it's a tough decision, like sometimes feelings have to be hurt to win. Like they shouldn't be concerned about Rizzo's feelings or the clubhouse's feelings if it means that they can be a better team. Like if they can be a better team, I'm sorry, but Rizzo, you have to move to the side.
No,
that's just how it is. It's also a business, and these players understand that too.
I think in closing here, I'm just gonna say I think Cashman is going to be pretty aggressive at the trade.
I honestly think so too.
Yeah,
I think they have a really good chance of winning the title this year. They're a few pieces away from being the number one contender of winning a title. And the Yankees are desperate to win a title. They're desperate to win a title. So I think they're going to do what it takes to make sure that they have the best roster they can in October. And again, if it means hurting feelings, then so be it.
Well, I mean, that's also Cashman's MO. If you Cashman that you're worthy of like getting these like extra additions, he's going to try his best to get those pieces in. And a lot of times they're multiple pieces. Like it's not just like one guy. Like he's going to attack that roster from as many different angles as possible. And he'll like pull a surprise. Like we might think it's infield help or one position. Then all of a sudden he pops up with like a different position and it makes total sense when you look at it. So, I don't know if it's a prediction or whatever, however you want to describe it, but I feel very confident that the Yankees are going to be super aggressive at the deadline, and I would expect multiple moves. And Brian Cashman doesn't care about their feelings. I know that for a fact. Like he respects all of them. He loves all the players, but when it comes to like, are we going to win and can I make this team better? He doesn't care. Like he's just going to go do it. So, yeah. Okay, one more before we get out of here from Glenn Kirshner. I feel like there's a connection there.
That's my dad.
Hello, Glenn. He asked you about the Yankees going for Pete Alonso, who will be a free agent. Do you think Alonso would be a trade target?
No, I don't think that's a likely possibility. I just don't see the Mets trading their star to the Yankees and conceding their season that way. I just don't think it's realistic at all, honestly. And also, he cost a lot of money, and I don't know if I think he's a better bat than Rizzo, but I don't know if he's worth the price for Steinbrenner to make that kind of move. And also, I just don't see it happening with Cohen trading their star to the Yankees. He may get traded elsewhere, but I don't think he would give him to the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's getting traded. I mean, I know the Cubs are one potential spot that I guess they would be the odds-on favorite if you go by the rumors. Maybe Seattle. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think he's going to the Yankees. I would put that at like 0%.
Yeah, I would also put it at 0%. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. We know it's Friday, like noon. People work and have other things to do. So we appreciate all of you that watched, stayed on, were in the comments. We appreciate it. We'll do this again at some point. We'll figure out another time to hop on here. I think we'll definitely do one around the trade deadline. That makes sense. But yeah, we'll figure out a way to do this a couple more times. So yeah, thank you to everybody. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can subscribe on all your podcast platforms. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channels under the same name. Thank you everyone for checking us out. We really appreciate it. And we will speak to you all on Tuesday. See you later. Enjoy the Dodgers series.